Cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am, a revolutionary statement by philosopher René Descartes. Descartes spent his life contemplating how it is humans can possess knowledge, and from his studies he concluded the best and only way to navigate the world is through doubting anything that can possibly be proven false. In his work Meditations, Descartes doubted even his own senses due to the possibility of senses sometimes deceiving reality. Descartes took this philosophy as far as to even doubt his own existence. How would he know he's not simply a figment of a dream or a cog in the matrix? In contemplation to this question, he responded with cogito ergo sum, I think therefore I am. Because Descartes contemplates whether or not he's real, this inherently proves his existence. This revelation was embraced and celebrated. Pretty much all of Descartes' work was. He was even retroactively dubbed the father of modern philosophy. However, I'm here today to argue that this one itty-bitty statement, I think therefore I am, is the single most harmful piece of rhetoric to the modern human. Quickly have to address the elephant in the room. If you clicked this video because you thought it was a video essay on the amazing digital circus, unfortunately it's not, but I do really think this video deals with a lot of the same themes and questions that the show grapples with. Obviously I'm a bit biased, but I'd recommend sticking around. This video is actually a final exam for my philosophy of communication class taught by Dr. Anthony M. Wachs, rhetorician and author dealing with the effects of postmodernity grounded in the Catholic tradition of communication. One of the options for the final exam was to, in your own words, attempt to explain the meaning of this class and explain what exactly is philosophy of communication. I took this opportunity to ask Dr. Wachs if I could attempt to translate the complex teachings of this class into something more digestible for a broader YouTube audience. I'm gonna do my best to give this class justice, but in order to fit the YouTube format, I had to tone a lot of things down to just broad strokes and simplifications. I am but a student with limited knowledge of this vast world of philosophy and communication, so I apologize for any mistakes, and I hope that this video creates a good environment for discussion and deliberation in the comments. Anyway, let's jump right into it. The surface level answer is that philosophy of communication asks the why behind the how of communication. In American public education, we are taught communication as a system where a message is sent between a sender and a receiver through the likes of a channel or medium. Maybe they're sprinkling a little feedback in there and the school system just calls it a day. This, however, is only the most surface level understanding of how communication works. Many have dedicated their lives to dissecting and theorizing on how human communication functions. However, philosophy of communication looks at this conversation from a different angle. Why? Why did our communication systems develop? What prompted it? And how does your thinking and perception affect communication and meaning? Before I can address this question, however, I must first explain the concept of essence. Essence is the fundamental feeling or quality that stems from a given object or thing. The essence of a playground is one of wonder, joy, and play. Teleology is the worldview that everything in reality has an essence and has a perfect essence it is working towards. Aristotle used the example of an acorn to explain this phenomenon. An acorn exists in a state of potentiality until it grows to become an oak tree. The acorn's perfect form is a fully grown oak, and it spends its time working towards this perfect essence. The human mind can understand the essence of things even if our perception and understanding is imperfect. That sinking feeling in your stomach you get right before something goes wrong, that feeling that can't be rationally explained, that feeling that you can't yet justify, but you know with every fiber of your being that's... Well, when you're right, and a bad thing happens right in front of you, this is an example of feeling the essence around you. It wasn't two dots connected rationally in your head that made you feel uneasy, it was simply just a feeling that you couldn't ignore. In today's world, the talk of feelings, vibes, essence, and the connection to everything in the cosmos would have you labeled as irrational and eccentric. And in today's grammar, to be irrational is to be wrong. But that's not what the word actually means. It simply means to not be rational. There's more to life than logos, and for something to be true doesn't inherently mean it has to be rational. In the infancy of human history, the essences of life guided our understanding of the world. However, this all changed with the introduction of language. Language and communication as a whole can be boiled down to the development of meaning. The act of naming something is the act of translating the essence of something into the medium of language. In doing so, we bestow meaning to an object or idea. However, this system is flawed as the effects of language are reversed as time changes the meanings and perceptions of words. As time passes, words evolve to fit the needs of the culture of the era. In doing so, the original meanings of these words are perverted to mean something sometimes entirely different. However, the connotation of those words still affect how it is we perceive the things they represent. A funny example of this are the countries Greenland and Iceland. For those who don't know, about 80% of the country Greenland is covered in ice and snow year-round, while Iceland has a beautiful spring and summer where the country is very green. The reason for the backwards naming is due to a marketing effort from a Viking named Eric the Red in the 10th century, who after being exiled from Iceland for murder, named his new settlement Greenland in an attempt to incentivize settlers to pull up. And yeah, the strategy actually worked. The reason it worked is simply because language changes our perception and feelings towards things. Language can be described as a perversion of our senses as we use our eyes in place of our ears. Because of this disconnect, it leaves room for language to be used in harmful ways, like, convincing you to pick up and move to Greenland, only to find out it's covered in ice. Often, modern language is rooted in older languages that describe what it is the word is meant to represent. Take, for example, the word ontology. Ontology is the study of being and existence. The word stems from the Greek word onto, meaning being, and ology, meaning the study of. Being is incredibly important to the conversation of philosophy and communication, so while we're here, let's discuss what exactly is being. Merriam-Webster defines being as the quality or state of having existence. Now let's examine the phrase human being, with the emphasis on what does the human part entail. Aristotle defined humans as zoon logon ekon, meaning the animal having logos, with logos being inherently tied to speech and reason. Ontologists predominantly agree that being human is inherently communal, and this is seen throughout all of human history. In prehistoric times, humans congregated in groups ranging from 20 to 100 people and used systems of hierarchy related to physical strength in order to create order and cohesion. Whilst in today's society, we are still communal and social creatures who adhere to a social hierarchy related to status, power, and most predominantly wealth. We've discussed how humans are inherently communal creatures, however in today's postmodern world, we champion hyper-individualism. This disconnect between our communal nature and our hyper-individualistic society disrupts our being, and the side effect of this disruption is why humans in the 21st century feel so lost. Humans in the modern age have the resources to be the most comfortable, pampered, and spoiled we've ever been, and yet things like depression, anxiety, and burnout have exponentially increased as time and technology have advanced. Recognize this begs the question, how did our weird, meaning Western educated, industrialized, rich democracy, morph to become so hyper-individualistic? Well, for that, we have our good old pal René Descartes to thank. Self-preservation and self-interest is inherently rational. It makes sense to put oneself first, but that's not how humans traditionally operated. Humans are a naturally communal species, and yet under the guise of logos above all, our values change to become hyper-individual. Descartes championed reason and logic above all else. And if it wasn't rational, it was wrong. And that philosophy is the foundation that our weird culture is built upon. In the 17th century, we as a weird collective essentially decided to ditch all other ways of knowing and put all of our chips on the logos. The mass adoption of Descartes' philosophy is what perpetuated the Industrial Revolution and advancements in sciences, math, and technology. And by no means am I trying to sit here and argue that this is inherently a bad thing. Instead, I'd like to look at this through the view of a two-eyed prophet. Within any given technology, there are both positives and negatives. Let's take the printing press, for example. The printing press is one of the greatest advancements in human history, and yet its invention obsoletes the need for raw memorization and the passing of folk tales. Every technology and every adoption of philosophy has unforeseen consequences, and one of the consequences of Descartes' philosophy is the splitting of mind and body. Descartes saw the mind as non-physical, while he saw the body as entirely physical. However, he couldn't rationally explain how the two interacted, and so in his philosophy, he split them. The implication of this we still see today in the distinction of modern medicine between physical and mental health. This comes from Descartes. However, this way of thinking is flawed. Our mind and body are inherently intertwined, and one always affects the other. An example of this is the flow state. When in the flow state, you are letting being and experience happen to you instead of thinking through it. Your mind and body become one, and you act without having to intentionally think. You just do. This phenomenon can't be rationally explained, but search within yourself and you know it to be true. The splitting of mind and body is the biggest obstacle in the way of being in modern society. In today's world, it has become all too common to think through one's emotions rather than just truly feeling them. Our brains have become programmed to be logocentric, and so when times get tough, we rely on our logos to get us through. But no amount of rational thinking will ever help one come to terms with things like death and loss. Through the mind-body split, we have shut ourselves off to experiencing the world as a whole, and instead we look through the narrow looking glass of logos. While this looking glass has brought us many things like modern medicine, computers, planes, and so much more, Its unforeseen consequence has been the numbing of human experience of being. Overcoming the mind-body split isn't as simple as just thinking about your mind-body connection really hard, although I wish it were. The effects of Descartes' philosophy is institutionally baked into every one of us raised in a weird society. Education, medicine, technology, science, history, modern philosophy, all these build upon rational thinking. And due to the proven validity and results stemming from these institutions, which prioritize logos, we live in a society that applies logos and reasoning to every situation as the blanket, one-all, be-all fix to all of your problems. We've taken it as far as to culturally change the meaning of irrational to mean incorrect. But as we know, things like depression, anxiety, and burnout can't be cured with rationality, and that's why they've become such prominent issues in postmodernity. Previously, there was a tried and true method to winning in this weird society. You go to school, become educated, develop your critical thinking, develop some social skills and communication skills, and you're all set up for a good life with a well-paying job. But with the world now transitioning into a realm of AI and computers, which have already far surpassed the average human's ability to reason and critically think, it's leaving those who previously succeeded through their logos to now not be needed. Because in today's job market, you don't need expensive and needy humans to do the busy work anymore. You can just hire a Claude to do it. In the modern world, you can't just make it on logos alone anymore. You need to stand out amongst 7.2 other million unemployed people, and that's just in the United States. And the way you stand out is through your humanity. In a world dominated by technology and artificial intelligence, what has become scarce are real human beings, not just shells of them. Through the over-reliance on rational thinking, technology, and René Descartes, we've shut ourselves off to experiencing the world as intended. And those lucky enough to go through life actually experiencing it, not just going through the motions, will be the ones succeeding in the world we are heading to. Or maybe we're already even there. Alright y'all, I'm gonna keep it a stack. I've had about 80% of this video done for like 3 weeks now, and I just turned in a rough draft version to Dr. Wachs for my final, and he graciously accepted it, and thank God I'm graduated and I don't ever have to do school again. You know, I told myself that I'd get this video out within like a week of graduating, but I got a, real bad case of the graduation hangover, so that didn't happen. But I really did have a lot of fun making this video, and I really enjoyed all of Dr. Wachs' class I've taken. If anyone goes to Duquesne, please take his courses. They're very fun. He's a really cool guy. But anyway, yeah, I've got a lot more information on this, and I actually cut like a bunch of stuff from the original script, and I'm just thinking about making a part 2 at some point. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Like the video if you liked the video, and sub if you make it all the way this way. But anyway, Dr. Wachs, you're the GOAT. Appreciate you.